If you're like me, you have read the famous and often quoted book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And others swear by it in terms of what it's done for them, their mindset, and helped them succeed in business. But there's one thing about that book that has really done a disservice to people in their thinking, is that it often, and again, people might disagree with this and that's fine, it often reduces the, how do I say this? It reduces success, the measure of success, to burning motivation, desire, willpower, all that stuff. Well, here's the thing. This book, this philosophy, was written by able-bodied people for able-bodied people. This book was written in an era where anybody with disabilities was cast aside, was to be ashamed of, was to put in an institution. They were not thought to be meaningful contributing members of society. And I often encounter pushback from people who are real proponents of this kind of thinking that will look at me and my disabilities and will say that I'm making excuses, that I have a limited mindset, that I'm using limited thinking, I have limiting beliefs, blah, blah, blah. If I tried harder, if I was more motivated. This is one of the pitfalls of Napoleon's thinking, or what he advocates. That simple motivation is the difference between whether you are effective or not. Well, considering he did not consider people with disabilities when he came up with this philosophy, it can be problematic for people like us. Because we come across people who think we're just not trying hard enough, we're not motivated enough, we don't have enough willpower, and it's all BS. If people who made those comments fully understood what it's like to live with pain, or depression, or trauma, or anything like that, at the very least, I hope they'd be more compassionate. But to think that we're not already trying harder than they could imagine is ignorant, it's subjective, it's foolish, because it's simply not the case. What is the problem is that people who think that we aren't motivated enough think that we're lazy if we don't get the same results that they do doing it the same way. One of the biggest barriers to full inclusion in society is butt-headed thinking that says that we need to do it the same way as everybody else does in order to be included, to be successful. No, what needs to happen is that old school thinking that really only applies to able-bodied people needs to be modified to realize that motivation isn't the only ingredient to success. So is accommodation. So is acceptance. So is compassion. Those are the ingredients that are necessary for us. That's my 2 cents on that for now. Remember, no matter what anybody tells you, you're good enough. And thanks for being you.